today, new calls to do something about Letitia James, because she is really trying to basically stand in opposition to the federal government. She's made it clear before, let's face it, this is all this woman has. This is what she's banked her entire career on. Well, now we're getting new information out that she's becoming increasingly even more of a problem that she welcomes. She wants Donald Trump to pay $500 million to the people of New York for something that, believe me, and I'll walk you through the case, literally makes no sense and would set tremendously poor precedent. Listen, even the judges in the appeals court know that this one makes no sense. This is an AG gone wild. But listen to the latest breaking news coming to us right now from MSNBC.
Its $470 million civil fraud judgment against President-elect Donald Trump. Joining us now with more is MSNBC's Lisa Rubin. Lisa, good morning. What does this mean?
Good morning, Jose. President Trump's lawyers are trying to get the New York Attorney General to set aside that case. But as they said in their letter today, they're refusing to do so because that case, which was a civil litigation, is primarily and almost exclusively about his pre-presidential conduct and running the Trump Organization. And as they say in their letter, there are over a dozen other defendants who are part of that $450 million plus civil fraud judgment. I want to point out also that this is part of their strategy to sort of extend the presidential immunity argument from the opinion over the weekend. You can see them do that with the New York DA's office as well. That office's brief in response to a motion to dismiss the New York hush money case, where there is also a verdict, is expected later today. We should expect to see them also fight back against the idea that the judgment has to be thrown out merely because Trump is going to be president again.
Lisa Rubin, thank
you. You see where we're heading. Okay, so she just wants to get to live another day. Don't forget, this is one Letitia James who had this to say right before the election.
This is a state case. Last week he perfected his appeal, and we are confident that in the state of New York that we will recover over $450 million for the residents of the great state of New York. He's engaged in name calling. But unfortunately, the reality is that I will not dignify his comments, and two, I will not amplify his racism and or sexism. We've got to focus on issues. Americans are struggling right now. Inflation has gone down, again, under the leadership of President Biden. Right now, we are experiencing one of the lowest unemployment rates in history. It's really critically important that the number of illegal border crossings...
Blah, 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 blah. She talks Biden's book, trying to have it both ways, incidentally. It's actually kind of funny because she's like, oh, inflation's coming down, even though inflation's been so hard and it's such a focus. Oh, and the border's getting better, whatever, okay? Whatever, Letitia. Good luck with that one. Here's the deal. Guys, she wants to bankrupt the newly elected president of the United States. That is her goal. That is her mission. Do not be fooled. Here she was, smiling like some kind of Cheshire cat soon after this nearly $500 million judgment came in, telling ABC News she was going to go after all of it. Every single last penny, if she had to confiscate his properties, something that she dreams about, clearly.
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
So that's your plan, right? To do that with the President of the United States? Good luck with that, Letitia. She's gonna run into some obstacles, just a few. And I love this soundbite. I'm gonna play it all today. We thank Benny Johnson for doing this interview with Mike Davis. Maybe we'll have to get Mike on the program. But he says this so well. The attorney, by the way, for Trump.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not effing around.
Well said. Okay? So he's going to put her fat, you know what, right into the slammer if she continues this. Well, she wants to continue this. I don't know if she's going to get to first base, though. I'm just going to say, because the Court of Appeals any day now, and I know I've been saying this a while, they're a little bit extended here. They're overextended. They should have actually thrown this case out earlier, but we're still waiting. They know that this makes no sense. You heard the 5 judges listening to the solicitor who was acting on behalf of Letitia James, trying to take her court case against Trump to the Court of Appeals. And they're like, what are you talking about, lady? No, they're not having it.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated...
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
Da-da-da! Okay, so there were a whole series of that. We did a whole show on this. I actually broke up the entire court's response, and it was like one after another. Boom, 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 boom. They just shredded that attorney, Judith Vale, just shredded her, because there is no case. You see, and just to back up for a second, for those of you that are not as familiar, because I realize there's so many cases. It's like, wait, which one are we talking about here? This is the case where Letitia James is arguing that he unfairly got loans at a better rate from Deutsche Bank because he lied about the valuation of Mar-a-Lago. So Letitia James is putting the valuation of Mar-a-Lago somewhere around, $19 million, $18 million, to which I would say, hey, you know what? I would buy it for that. Believe me, you and I would buy it together, right? We'd find a way to come up with the money to buy it for that. Doesn't make any sense. Apparently, this thing has no debt on it, somewhere around $57 million just in revenue every year. So she's totally like way out in left field. But by the way, who the heck wants an attorney general for a state getting in between you and your banker? And think about it, you're borrowing money, you're private, the bank is private, and you make a decision. The bank's gonna have to deal with it, for example, if you can't pay back your loan. But if they think you're a worthwhile credit risk and they're like, okay, I got Mar-a-Lago as collateral, then they're willing to do it. Guess what? Deutsche Bank made $100 million off the deal. They were absolutely happy. So you have no victim in the case, and Letitia's poking her nose in there. I just wonder maybe she should poke her nose into what's going on in some other places, which brings me to another story I'm going to get to with the VA. Oh my goodness. But in all seriousness, even, it's so ridiculous. Is she supposed to get in the middle of, say, Joy Behar's deal to sell her home? This is the host on The View, who's asking nearly $11 million for a 4,000 square foot little Victorian in Sag Harbor? I don't think so. You think that thing is worth it? Okay, if somebody's crazy enough to pay it, let it be their business. But who is Letitia to come in and say, I'm going to decide the valuation on this? This is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And it's nuts that somehow she hasn't been, quote unquote, put to bed. But again, maybe Mike Davis is right. Maybe ultimately, she doesn't seem to understand, federal law kind of trumps the state law here. Maybe they find a way to put her fat into prison for a long time.